So thanks for joining today's Mid-Year Wellness Reset. Today's webinar is going to be interactive. You don't have to unmute or type in the chat if you don't want to. Of course, it's encouraged. But I do highly recommend, if you don't have a pen and paper near you at the moment, I would go grab one quick. We are going to be writing a bunch of stuff down, and it'll just be helpful rather than memorizing everything. All right. Hopefully the slide changed. If it did not, please just let me know. You can see it. It's been a little delayed this morning. So as we reach the midpoint of the year, it's a great opportunity to pause and check in with ourselves. Many of us start the year in January with goals and intentions, but then by June, between life, work, family responsibilities, everyday stress, it can be difficult to maintain those healthy habits. So today isn't really about perfection or adding more to our to-do list. It's just to take a couple minutes to reflect on where we are right now and identify a few simple actions that can help us feel our best this summer. So we're going to write down different things, like I already mentioned. We'll write down various words and phrases. If you get to a question and you feel the need to repeat what you've already written, that's okay. Everything's kind of going to build off of one another. So to get us started, I'd like you to think about and answer this question. And the first thing you're going to write down is a number from 1 to 10. How would you rate your overall wellness right now? So there's no right or wrong answer. Just jot down the number or keep it in mind as we move throughout the webinar. Take a moment. And as you can see on the scale, 0 is really good and 10 is not so good. Normally it's the opposite. It's like 0 is nothing and 10 is great. This scale is opposite. However you want to look at it, just know what your number means to you. All right, so again, why June? June is an interesting time of the year. We've made it halfway, which means we've likely have experienced successes and some challenges, and maybe a few goals that we started with at the beginning of the year have fallen by the wayside. Whether those are wellness related, work related, anything. So the good news is that we don't have to wait until January to start over. So summer naturally creates that opportunity for a fresh start, right? We have longer daylight hours, more opportunities to be outside, maybe some vacations, different activities, and we move at a different pace than we do throughout other times of the year. So we're going to use this as an opportunity to intentionally support our well-being. So for this question, what I want you to think about and write down is when you think about this summer. So starting now, we're in June through the rest of summer, July, August. How do you want to feel? So you're just going to write down one word that represents how you'd like to feel by the end of the summer. So some examples could be energized, balanced, healthy, present, whatever it is, just one word. You can go ahead and write that down. And we're going to come back to this word later. But if you do want to share your word, feel free. You don't have to. If you don't want to, you can keep it to yourself. All right. Energized. Love it. It's a great time to start fresh, reset that energy. All right. So moving on. When we hear the word burnout, you typically often picture someone who is completely exhausted and overwhelmed, like in this image on the screen. But burnout doesn't happen overnight. Maybe you have experienced it yourself, but it develops gradually. And it often starts with small signs that are very easy to overlook. So some of these signs, just to bring awareness and attention to them, are feeling tired even after rest, difficulty concentrating, increased irritability, lack of motivation, feeling overwhelmed, maybe neglecting self-care, or just not feeling as engaged as usual, whether that comes with work or socially. So take a moment and review the list on the screen. And I want you to ask yourself, which of these signs have you noticed recently? Have you noticed any recently? And if so, you can write them down, make note of them on your paper. And the next thing that you can start thinking about when you're done with that one is what tends to be your first sign that you need a reset. So maybe it's not one of the signs that you've noticed recently, but when you notice yourself starting to experience some burnout, what is that typical first sign for you? Some people, it may be poor sleep or becoming impatient, feeling overwhelmed. You can write that down as well. And if you want to share, feel free. Lack of sleep. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Okay. And so, just to briefly note before we move on, the earlier we recognize these signs, the easier it is to make small adjustments before burnout becomes more serious. So, that's why we drew attention to them today to be able to recognize them so that we can adjust now before things get worse for the remainder of the year. So, we're going to do a little energy audit. So, we're going to take our focus away from burning out. We're going to put it into our energy. So, one of the most effective wellness strategies is understanding what personally gives you energy and what takes it away. So, you're going to write down one, maybe two things that regularly drain your energy. So, whether that's stress, lack of, or poor sleep, maybe constantly multitasking or something else. Whatever you notice takes your energy from you. Go ahead and write that down. And then once you have what's draining your energy, I want you to write down things that restore your energy. So maybe that's exercise, or with this time of year, time outside, maybe reading, whatever gives you that boost. And what's really important here is awareness. So it's pretty easy for us to know what's draining us, but we don't always make enough time for the things that refill our tank, right? So as we build this summer wellness plan today, we'll want to focus on increasing those energy giving activities whenever possible and minimize the things that are draining us. So, oftentimes, when people think about wellness, they sometimes imagine major lifestyle changes, right? But in reality, wellness is built through small habits that are repeated consistently over time. So, for right now, I want to focus on four wellness pillars. So, the first is movement. Movement. That's how we keep our bodies active, right? Exercise. The second is fuel, so your nutrition and hydration. The third is rest, so your sleep and your recovery. And then the fourth is connection, meaning our relationships and our social support systems. So just take a minute to think about these four areas in your life. And I want you to write down which pillar feels strongest for you right now, and then which one may need more attention. So you're just going to choose one of each. What's really strong? What needs more attention? And we're not trying to improve everything at once. We're simply identifying where we can just make the greatest impact. And again, if you want to share, feel free. I'd love to hear. Movement and rest. So movement is the strongest for you right now, and rest needs a little bit more attention. Yeah, I feel that. I think for me right now, I'm giving the most into rest, and I need to give some more attention to my fuel. That's where I'm at. All right, great. Thank you for sharing. So we're going to move on to one of my favorites. It's very simple, very practical. So we're using a start, stop, and continue framework. So you're going to think about one healthy habit that you want to start this summer. So think about the pillar that you just said that you need to improve upon. Doesn't need to be huge. In fact, smaller is actually better. But write down a habit that you can start. So for me, since I want to focus on fueling better, focus on my nutrition and my hydration, one habit that I have been saying I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it, is start putting electrolytes in my water for hydration this summer. And once you've done that, you're going to do the stop. So you're going to choose one habit that you currently do that's no longer helping that you're going to stop doing. So for me, I I'm currently pregnant and have been wanting ice cream every single night, and I need to stop having it every single night. So I'm probably going to minimize that and choose 1 or 2 nights a week to do it or to have ice cream. So stop doing it on the daily. Well, thank you very much. And then once you've chosen that, I want you to choose one habit that you're already doing that's working well that you're going to continue. So if you said that movement was something that you're already putting a lot of energy to, maybe that's getting your steps every day. You're already doing that. That's working for you. You can continue doing that. All right. So now we're going to pull everything together into a simple plan. So the goal, again, isn't to be perfect, but we want to create a very realistic plan. So you'll look back at your notes thus far to help guide this plan. All right. So I'm going to go through it all first, and then we'll take time to fill it out. So basically, what I want you to do is start by filling in the sentence. By Labor Day, I want to feel blank, right? We already did our word about how we want to feel at the end of the summer. So energized, maybe it's using that same word. You have plenty of other words also written down, so you can pull from that. Then you're going to choose a physical wellness goal, a mental wellness goal, and either a social or personal goal. So you're going to do that. And then we've already talked about some habits, but you're just going to kind of rewrite it down, whether you want to repeat or come up with one that you're going to focus on for the whole summer. So you can start to fill that out. As you complete it, just remember that successful wellness goals are specific and manageable. So I want you to commit to something small that you can actually sustain rather than something ambitious that ends up becoming very overwhelming in a couple weeks. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to complete this. And if you're done, you can also let me know so I'm not sitting here making you wait. And as always, feel free to share if you wish. Okay, great. All right, so we have our plan. However, every plan always encounters obstacles. The difference, though, between success and failure is often when we've thought about those obstacles ahead of time. So I want you to identify the biggest challenge that could possibly interfere with your plan. All right, so maybe it's time, prior obligations, travel, stress, motivation, whatever it is, something, the biggest thing that could possibly interfere with your plan. And write that down. And then you're going to write down a strategy you can use if that obstacle does appear. So if time was your challenge, maybe you'll schedule wellness activities on your calendar. Or if motivation is your challenge, maybe you'll find an accountability partner or meet with one of our health coaches. So take a moment to come up with your strategy. Just a key takeaway here, we're addressing these obstacles ahead of time so that we can stay flexible. Life inevitably gets busy, things happen. So addressing it now, you kind of have that game plan to be able to succeed and accomplish your plan. All right, we're almost finished, I promise. So research shows that when we write down our goals and commitments, we're more likely to actually follow through. So you've already chosen a habit to focus on this summer, but I'd like you to choose now one action habit. Sometimes people view them as the same thing, but I want it to be something specific you're going to do that you're going to commit to for the next 30 days. So you can just complete the sentence, I will blah, blah, blah. So for me, I will only consume ice cream 2 nights per week. Right? Make it very specific, measurable, something you can come back to and say, I did it this day, I did it this day. And it's not like you have to do it every single day for 30 days. For me, it's going to be, 30 days, but split into weeks. Or maybe you'll walk during lunch 3 days, or you'll prioritize getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep if you need to work on that rest. All right. So we have a lot of stuff written down, but as we wrap up, I want you to think back to the question that we first started with, which was how would you rate your wellness right now? We had that scale. So take a moment and I want you to ask yourself, has anything shifted during today's session to change your original answer? Right? So you kind of thought you knew how your wellness was, and now you've answered all these questions. Do you need to go back and change that rating? And if so, you can do that. Or if you don't feel you need to change the rating, maybe just think about, and you don't have to write it down, one insight that you're taking away today. Something that while writing all this down was like an aha moment for you. And so now we have this whole plan, and it's actually time to get started on it. So, what's the one action? Again, we've already written down actions, we've written down habits, but what are you going to start this week to work toward these goals and this plan that you've created? So, if writing it down helps, great. If you've already written down and you want to highlight or circle, star it, great. But something that you can end this webinar and say, I can start this, whether that's today or, the end of this week, this weekend, whatever it may be. And so the goal of today's webinar wasn't to completely, transform our wellness or our life in 20 to 30 minutes. It was just to create awareness, help you identify those small intentional steps that could support your well-being throughout the summer. Like I said before, we're not perfect. Wellness isn't about perfection. It's about consistently making choices that support your energy, your habits, your health, and your quality of life. So that being said, thank you for taking the time to invest in yourself today. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope you have a healthy, enjoyable, restorative summer. Remember that we're always here to support you too. So if you have any wellness questions, don't hesitate to reach out. We have our summer programs going on. If you want to talk about any of these goals or this wellness plan, you need a tip, a trick, our health coaches are here for you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you soon.